pleasant morning to you out there. The program is the Dailies on Echo Television International. We'll be keeping you updated. Of course, we have the current news that have been online down till this morning about the NLC suspending the strike after 2 days. We will record that yesterday they were in the meeting which started like about 7 p.m. with the National Security Agency, Rubadu, and also the Minister of Labor and Employment was also in attendance. And they said that this strike has been suspended temporarily. So we hope that the federal government will meet all or most of the demands of NLC. I'll be doing the program together with Rachel Tansy. Good morning,
Morning,
Rachel.
Sally.
How you doing?
I'm fine. How about you?
I'm great. Thank you so much. And to our viewers and supporters at home, do well to follow us live on Facebook and on YouTube so you don't miss out on any part of the program this morning. And we'll be starting with the first paper, which is the Daily Sun newspaper.
On the Daily Sun newspaper, NGE conference, Tinubu woos media in effort to address Nigeria's challenges. We have Governor Eno Amuka Muda Esikwenyi profile way forward. You can find details on page 26. The big story on the paper, Labour reaches truce with federal government, suspends strike. NLC appreciates member for compliance. Senators fume over 1.3 trillion naira revenue lost to waivers in 2023. Federal government confirms arrest of Ajero's attackers. You lack sufficient information. TUC replies Osemele over comment on NLC president. Appeal court upholds Sanwo-Olu's election, reserves judgment on Governor Sule's case. You can find details on page 27. Don't exclude Southeast from railways upgrade program, Senate tells the federal government. We have Governor Umba announces 25,000 naira cash awards to Enugu state workers, increased social register enrollment to 260,000. We have right under the story that says NLC TUC commend governor. You can find more details on page 27. Nigeria sliding into totalitarianism, a statement coming from PDP. You can find details on page 26. As party senators settle for North Central for minority leader. And at the downside of the paper, we have why we cancelled 264 visas of 204 Nigerians. This is a statement from Saudi Arabia concerning returning back some Nigerians that went there from Jeddah and then brought them back. They said there was a little problem concerning their visas not being appropriate and all of that. You can find details on page 6. We have a story that you can find details on page 25 that says Nigeria's stockfish import from Norway dips 27% in 2023. It's high time we stop consuming all of these imported goods and start manufacturing them in the country ourselves. There is a picture story that is showing from right to left, Governor Umo Eno of Akwa Ibom State, Minister of Information and National Orientation Alhaji Idris Malagi, and Uncle Sam Omuka, publisher, founder of Vanguard newspaper, during the 15th All Editors Conference on Uyo, Akwa Ibom State yesterday. And that's all the news on Daily Sun newspaper.
All right, let's take a look at the leadership newspaper. And on the leadership, you have entrenched democracy in Nigeria. Tinubu tells editors. You can find detail of that on page 7. 30,000 minimum wage no longer acceptable. This is coming from Abdul Salami. You can find detail of that story as well on page 12. And also we have on trending, NSA announces arrest of Ajero's attackers. And on numbers, we have SAC Oshun workers demand 2 billion naira damages. You can find more detail of that story inside the paper. One party margin, PDP, MOM, LP undecided as APC, SDP slam Atiku for the comment. You can do well to find more of that story as well in the paper. And the big story here says, relief as Labour leaders suspend indefinite strike, with the writer following the story said, cite intervention by the National Security Advisor to monitor situation. Student lament grounding of varsity suspension of exams. You can find detail of this story on page 4. And also we have on the visa revocation, why we denied 177 Nigerians entry, coming from Saudi Arabia. Appeal court affirms Sanwo-Olu re-election, with detail of that story found on page 18. And on a sad note, we have 2 children die, 1,113 houses razed in Borno IDP camps. Well, we hope something will be done. It's really a sad one where people have actually been chased away literally from their ancestral homes. And here we're seeing that fire also got away with their houses, and then 2 other people died in the IDP camp. SEC to reduce 190 billion naira unclaimed dividend with the new portal. You can find detail of that story. We still have the picture story of the editors summit that they are held in Oyo State. You can do well to find more detail of all of the stories and more that is of interest to you.
On Daily Independent, Nigeria sliding into totalitarianism, anarchy, PDP raises the alarm. You can start with the details on the front page. Lagos Guba poll appeal court upholds Sanwo-Olu Hamzat's victory. Governor Deputy Head Judiciary recommit to Greater Lagos agenda. You can start with the details on the front page. We have inflation hit 27.33%. The big story saying analysts fear food inflation may spike as yellowtide beacons. Naira appreciates only way out of high inflation. I take that again. Say Naira appreciation only way out of high inflation. A statement coming from Teriba, and our tightening measures responsible for sharp decline. A statement coming from the CBN. And on editors' conference, Tinubu pledges to promote free press. NIMET forecasts dust haze in next 24 hours. Warns people with health issues. It's advisable for you to put on your face masks regularly. You can find details on page 7. NLC TUC suspends 2-day-old strike. NSC assures of arresting more culprits who attacked Ajero. Ignore private matter narrative. Strike is protest against cultural violence and impunity. A statement coming from NLC. Strike grounds Lagos seaports. You can find more details on page 28. Custom intercepts 3.55 billion naira tramadol at MMA, net 74.2 billion naira revenue. You can find details on page 7. SEC to make capital market attractive to fintechs youths. This is coming from Yuguda. You can find details on page 6. And at the downside of the paper, why we deported 177 Nigerians from Jeddah by Saudi embassy. Details can be found on page 6. And that's all the news on Daily Independent.
On the Metrics newspaper, Nigeria to import 2.1 million metric tons of rice, become top buyer globally in 2024. A report coming from the USDA with detail found on the front page and inside the paper. Again, Nigeria's inflation rate increases, hit 27.33% in October. We will record that this was supposed to drop it since a Tuesday, and here we are having it. Well, we just hope that something will be done, just like we're having suggestion about appreciating the Naira and other things that could actually help Nigerians as the year is coming to an end. Still on Metrics newspaper, visa cancellation. Why we denied 177 Nigerians entry. This is coming from Saudi Arabia. For a lot of people, they have been wondering why. You can do well to find detail in the paper. And on the strike suspension, the Ribado's rule revealed how NSA intervention saved the day. Imo elders wade into rift between Ozodinma and Achero. Labour praises Kaduna government over release of 3 billion gratuity, with detail of the story found on page 2. And NPCL set to unveil $2.8 billion AKK gas pipeline in December. On Wando secures $800 million loan for Agrib Nigerians acquisition. Also, we are having report project 26.5 million Nigerians to be food insecure in 2024. Report projects 26.5 million Nigerians to be food insecure in 2024. You can do well to find detail of that story on page 10. Still on the paper, here we're having Sanwo-Olu Hills Appeal Court ruling extend hands of fellowship to the GRV and also to JDOR. Detail of the story found inside the paper. And that's all on the front page of the Metrics newspaper.
On First News newspaper, why we deported 177 Nigerians from Jeddah, statement coming from Saudi Arabia. Inflation hits 27.3 as beverages, food prices, others rise. One party dictatorship remark, you can't offer credible opposition, APC replies Atiku. Appeal court affirms Sanwo will lose re-election as Lagos governor. It's wrong to label all Nigerians corrupt, a statement coming from ICPC. Either way, even if we're not all corrupt, this label has made us a threat all over the country. There are places that are recruiting people to work celeb, but once you are a Nigerian, you are not eligible to be. So whether we, of course, all of us are not corrupt celeb, but I mean, corruption is too big and too large. It's just at everybody's face. When you hear the kind of money people are embezzling, when you hear the things that are happening, it is loud. It is very big. One thing one person does is so big, it feels like it's like 10 million people that did that one thing, but it's just one person that did it. And I think that is what we are facing, because there are countries that are into cybercrime. But I mean, Nigerians is another level, looking at the fact that there is ritual attached into it. There are people's life attached into it. We have countries, even like India, that are into a lot of cybercrime, as well as Nigeria. But why is Nigeria more a threat when it comes to cybercrime than countries like India and all of that? And then you just wonder that we're just loud about the wrong things we do in this country. And I just hope that we become better, Sele. I just hope that we can clear our names, because it's getting worse over the years. We've talked so many times about the green card. I mean, the green, yes, of course, the green passport, yes, and how when you show that in the airport, you're treated differently. I just hope that we will be able to clear ourselves, that we will wake up one day to a Nigeria that the green visa, the green passport, when you show it, you will be looked at with respect. Exactly. But until then, for now, we just have to bear the consequences of the kind of life we have chosen for ourselves in this country, from government down to the common man in Nigeria. And then one day we'll be able to clear our name and not be looked in a certain way or just blacklisted in the world. Yeah. So,
Richard, if you ask for my opinion, I think this is not even a time for ICPC to attack or give a response. This is a time for us to look within and say, why do we have such reports coming? Why do we keep having negative report about Nigeria? I mean, if you're talking about brains, talking about even just like you mentioned, it takes somebody that's very intelligent to be involved in cybercrime.
Yes.
Richard, it takes somebody that has this zeal and also has this, like
a
say,
lot
a
of
skill.
skills. Yeah.
That's the word, a lot of skill to persuade somebody. And also, just like you mentioned, the fact that ritual has actually been attached to it. I mean, back then it was just Yahoo, and Yahoo were for, but right now it's Yahoo plus. In fact,
And
the plus
all
is
of
getting much
more, yeah.
and you wonder what really is the problem. People are really eager to make money. But beyond that, I couldn't help but take my mind back to, you remember when we had the new EFCC chairman during his screening, and he made mention the fact that he is going to start interrogating from the top to the bottom. And we saw when one of our leaders felt attacked. And
yes.
I feel that, I mean, this is not a time for you to feel attacked. Rather, this is a time for you to
Allow
submit
it to
yourself
happen.
to
Exactly.
the screen.
Allow
If
it
you
to
have
happen.
nothing in your drawer, you have nothing in your you have no skeleton in your cupboard, then you should be willing to submit yourself for scrutiny, however it is, because
Yes.
you know that whatever you have is legit. So when you talk about corruption, it's not just about our big leader. Corruption starts from small,
level.
and that's why we keep saying, Rachel, here, that if you are able to manage the little position given to you without manipulating, without corruption, it will not be a challenge to you when you get
When you get to the top,
and then you will be transparent. So I'm hoping that, yes, it sometimes feels disheartening when you give your green passport and you're being treated in a certain manner. In fact, even when you are there, they keep asking you to bring your papers when you're abroad, just so that they'll be sure you're not there. There's more surveillance. There's more eyes on Nigerians.
They're more thorough with us.
They're more
here.
thorough with us. So I just believe, rather than us replying back, I feel personally this is time Nigerians to do the work.
I will clear our
Clear
name.
your name
Yes.
rather than giving rest, because believe me, no matter how many times we keep replying,
Nothing has changed. Exactly.
Nobody will take us serious
Yes.
except we are ready to put in the work. So we hope that we'll be ready to put the work and not keep attacking when we are being when the finger has been pointed at you eventually.
Still on First News newspaper, the big story: NLC TUC suspends strike, direct workers to resume as Labour Congress gives 6 conditions for resolving dispute. We've arrested suspect behind NLC president's attack. This is coming from NSA, invites Labour leaders for talks. We have Di Lorenzo, Italy donates 21st century e-learning software through local partner White Cloud to polytechnics. Nigerian rapper Oladips dies at 28. 4 killed as driver loses control, rams into truck in Ogun State. How I was kidnapped after leaving Aso Rock. This is coming from a journalist. Find details of his ordeal inside the paper, and that's all the news on First News newspaper.
And a New Telegraph newspaper revenue squeeze. We have federal government loses 1.3 trillion naira to duty weavers in 2023. You can find detail of the story on the front page and in the paper as well. Firms and government raised 3.44 trillion naira through bonds and commercial papers. Also still on New Telegraph, we are having why we cancelled 264 Nigerians' visas still coming from Saudi Arabia. And on the issue of the Lagos Guba Appeal Court affirms election of Sanwo-Olu, Olu and Hamza. You can find detail of that story on page 3 and 30. Benue governor escaped unhurt as youths attack convoy. You can find detail of this on page 2, where we hope that youth do not take any measure into their hands, whatever the issue is. Be constructive, not destructive in criticism, Labour Party tells members. You can find detail of that story on page 3. And I believe this is coming from what Labour went through when they were being criticized for going into the strike. And still on the issue of strike, Labour suspend nationwide strike after meeting with federal government. We have arrested Ajero's attackers, says the federal government. Still a New Telegraph newspaper, does hers to affect visibility in 24 hours. Does hers to affect visibility in 24 hours. Mehmet once cautioned people with respiratory health challenge, where we saw already Rachel giving part of the things you should do: wear a face mask, wash your hands as much as possible. On Nigeria's inflation rises to 27.3% amid rising food prices. You can find detail on page 3. Global effort to limit warming to 1.5 centigrade falling, new report once. You can find detail on page 29. Current tough times, Nigerians sacrifice for better future, coming from the President Tinubu. And Senate to the federal government, upgrade Eastern Rail Line from narrow to standard gauge, seek to establish aviation college in Osun Federal Data Bank. With detail of that story found in the paper. We also have a study on the downside of the paper. You can do well to grab the paper and see more detail of any of the story that is of interest to you.
On the Punch newspaper, Lagos Kogi Rivers lead as inflation hits 27.33%. 177 deported Nigerians violated Saudi Arabia visa rules, coming from the embassy. Federal government reduces charges against Emefiele, strike stalls arraignment. You can find more details on page 7. The big story on the paper, Labour suspends strike, OPS stakeholders tackle NLC and TUC. Strike over Ajero assault abuse of power, says LCCI. Maritime sector loses 20 billion naira. Labour threatens to resume strike, insists on demand, says suspension temporary. You can find details inside the paper. And at the downside of the Punch newspaper, we have Labour Party welcomes Atiku's measure proposal. NNPP gives condition. Navy arrests 4 stowaways aboard Dubai vessel. You can find more details on page 4 and 5. We have LASG dislodges, arrests street traders in Oshodi and others. That is the Lagos state government dislodges and arrests street traders in Oshodi and others. You can find details on page 6, and that's all news on the Punch newspaper.
On the Nation newspaper, what to Shaibu run for governor? We have detail of the story on page 27. Government effort okay to halt soaring inflation. Rate rises to 27.33% with detail found inside the paper. Senate moves to create federal data bank, and we also have former finance minister Onalibo dies at 90. Sad one. You can find detail of the story inside the paper. Also, we have reforms come with pains but inevitable, says the federal government. There will be transparency in budgeting and expenditure. President said job creation a priority, so we can look forward to seeing the budget and all that it will be allocated for job creation. Also, we are having Saudi government 177 Nigerians came with irregular visas. We did no wrong, says the airpiece. You can find detail of the story in the paper. Labour calls off strike after talks with the Nigerian Security Advisor Ministers suspend in assault on Ajero's arrest. You can find detail. Suspects in assault on Ajero arrested. You can find detail of the story inside the paper. We also have UK Supreme Court rules government Rwanda asylum policies unlawful with detail of that story inside the paper. And that's all on the Nation newspaper.
On Voice of Liberty, Tinubu to attend Guinea-Bissau's 50th International Anniversary Independence Anniversary today. Security and battled Northwest governors head to Abidjan to meet African Development Bank President. Custom lost 1.3 trillion naira to Buhari's waivers coming from the CG. The big story: NLC TUC suspend nationwide strike. The Joint National Executive Council of the Nigerian Labour Congress and the Trade Union Congress yesterday night suspended the ongoing nationwide strike. Nigeria's inflation rate rises to 27.33% in October. This is a report from the Bureau of Statistics. We conducted free, fair, credible election in Kogi coming from INEC. And on strike, Emefle's trial on criminal charges stalls. I inherited serious liabilities from Buhari coming from President Tinubu, and that's all the news on Voice of Liberty.
Well, I think for INEC saying they conducted free and fair credible election in Kogi, it's left for the people of Kogi to actually tell us if it was free and fair. We are aware that the election there was met with quite a number of irregularities. We know that on Saturday they will be conducting in about 59 units because of the issue of some papers were being filled even before the election started. So let's wait and see what will be of this, because we are saying, it's not okay for us to hear opposition parties, being bitter about it. We remember what Dino Milai said about the fact that there was no election in Kogi State as far as he's concerned. Yeah. The INEC just filling some ballot papers and that was it. So, and that is a grave accusation. But we are hoping that beyond time, INEC is learning. I keep saying we have other elections that will be coming from next year. So I'm hoping that no matter what the loopholes are that INEC were able to record, this should be an eye-opener for them to do better. If you know that you were talking about vote buying, we still saw vote buying. Talk about people disguised in a security agency. We saw that there. So what can you do to make sure that you have your eyes all over? I mean, a lot of people are saying this election was supposed to be smoother. Why? Because the whole security agency were sent to these 3 states. So what happened that we still saw what happened? So we are hoping that I have over the time, I just think I just don't want to point fingers on anybody, because I believe the INEC chairman cannot be everywhere. But you need to call the people you work together with order to tell them what to do and how to do certain things, and make sure that they are really independent, because once we see intervention coming in, believe me, it's no longer free and fair election anymore. So we are hoping that better things will happen, and let's just hope that Saturday election will be smooth and smoother than even the previous election. All right, let's take a look at the next paper, which is Nigerian News Direct, where we see NNPCL to inaugurate $2.8 billion AKK gas pipeline in December. Detail found on page 11. NSA arrests attackers of Ajero as Labour lists 6 conditions to halt the nationwide strike. You want to know what those conditions are? Do well to look it up on page 4. Nigeria's inflation rate hits 27.33% as food insecurity deepens. food housing drive deadline index increases. This is coming from the MBS. And also we're seeing that food inflation rates skyrocketed to about 31.52% in October. And we cannot testify to that, Rachel, that the prices of food, I mean, unlike other times that when it's harvest system, food prices are supposed to be lesser. Yeah. But reverse is the case right now. I do not know whether was our crops affected in the farmland by some insects or diseases or what really is the problem. But definitely you and I know where the problem is. Transporting these goods from the farm down to the market. Yeah. Transportation is involved in that. So that can actually affect the prices of goods. And coupled with the fact that a number of farmers cannot go down to their farmlands to actually, farm. Most of the goods we eat, or most of the food we eat rather, are coming from the rural areas. And these are the same areas that are under attack from either herdsmen or known gunmen and the likes of that. And we are seeing that by 2024, we'll be having about 26 points Nigerians that will be living in food insecurity. And we had that prediction last year as well about this year. We're seeing another prediction for the next year. So I don't know what the government is doing about that. And that's why I keep making emphasis the fact that I wish I have an idea of what the budget would look like for agriculture. Because we really need to put so much effort in that sector. I mean, you've said that before as well. This is a sector that we tend to be neglecting, and this is a sector that, in fact, is the oil mine for other people. These are where people are getting lots of money. Looking at the fact, like that's why I keep taking my mind. There was a time where we're using cocoa, palm oil, and all of that to actually, agriculture was the thing. And each time we have inflation, it's agriculture that builds all that. So how comes we're not giving it the attention it's needed? So I'm hoping something will be done, because this inflation, I'm just scared what it would look like in November and in December. Already we're seeing that the prices for even gas is high. YKG is about 1,001 already. So I wonder what it will look like in December. So we are hoping the government is really looking inward to do something about the issue of this inflation. It keeps going higher and higher as the day goes by.
Stella, you keep saying it, what happened? And then the simple thing that happened is that the cost of production went high. Be it what it cost the farmers to be able to grow these crops, or be it how much it's costing them to get this food to us. So either way, the cost of production has gone high, yes, and that is why we will definitely see this increase. Unlike before, that if it's the season for yam, it's like yam is everywhere, it's more affordable and all of that. Now you can't even feel the difference. There was once a time in Jos, Irish potatoes was food. Once the season comes, like everybody eats it from morning
regardless
to night,
of your class,
regardless of your
poor.
class, exactly. But now potatoes have become a class food. It's really sad, Sele. But then, just as you said, we just hope that the government does something about it. And the number one thing the government of Nigeria needs to do for us is concerning subsidy, fuel pump prices, how much we are buying. If it doesn't go down, let's not expect food to go down. It's not magic. There's no magic around it. Secondly, is our inflation. Our exchange rate, not the inflation, because all of these things are what are pushing inflation.
Yes, yeah.
Exactly. Second is our exchange rate. What are they doing about it? It's still a free fall. We are still having our naira devaluing. These are the two major things I believe that the federal government of Nigeria can do for us when it comes to the cost of food. And as long as these things don't change, no Nigerian should expect a change in the prices of food in the market. It's just going to keep going high, until there is a stabilization. After there's that stabilization, then there is like a reverse. After we find the dollar perhaps staying at 1,000, then tomorrow we wake up, it's 900, 800, 700, 600, and it goes down back to 100 naira perhaps.
We hope so,
and exchange exactly, Celeb. But as long as nothing like that is happening, Nigerians should just put their minds, just be expectant of whatever will happen concerning food prices. And above all, we're a praying country, so God will help us. God will help us.
Richard, beyond praying, we need to put the work. I keep saying, you can pray from today to tomorrow, but if you don't put the work to make sure that
nothing will happen.
Faith without work is useless, Richard, and that's why we're hoping our leaders will put the work. I couldn't help but imagine why did we open the border to those 43 items? Nigerians cannot even feel the impact of the border being open.
We said
because
that.
initially, I think the idea was when you have more rights and more things, because most
The
of this
dollar is going high, so who are we
but so
deceiving?
of course, with
Yeah.
all of this, just like you said, we need to focus on certain things. We're looking at our interest rate, looking at and all of that. So you
Yeah.
begin to wonder exchange rate, interest rate, inflation is on another side, and you wonder how we're going to figure things
Yes.
out. So it's more like telling Nigerians to brace for the worst. And I hate to be,
The
the carrier of
bearer of
such
such
bad
news.
news,
Yes.
but I hope that we'll look into that. And the last story in Nigerian News Direct here we have is the ANEC 2024. Tinubu urges editors to project Nigeria positively to boost investment. Tinubu urges editors to project Nigeria positively to boost investment, and we hope we can all do that collectively so we can have more investors coming into the country. And that's all on Nigerian News Direct. Rachel, but before we continue further, I think it's that time where we go on a break, so we let our viewers to call us when we come back from the break. We would really love to hear what your own take is about the inflation rate, what we're seeing here already. INEC is saying the election was credible in Kogi, and as well we're seeing that Labour has suspended their strike temporarily. So when we come back, we'll open the phone lines. Please stay tuned with us.
Democracy is the theory that common people know what they want and deserve to get it good and hard. Join me every Friday, 7 p.m. on National Talk for analysis as well as in-depth perspective on issues as they unfold in and around Nigeria, as well as an opportunity to add your voice.
Thanks for staying tuned. It's still the Dailies on Network Television. We've been looking at a number of stories on the paper, and this is the time where we'll open the phone line so we can hear your own views on the story. Remember that we're live on Facebook. You can drop your comment as well there, then we'll take it live. Remember to turn down the volume of your TV set, please, so we can hear you clearly here in the studio, and other viewers at home can also hear you. I still have Rachel Tenzi with me in the studio. Thank you so much,
You're
Rachel.
welcome, sir.
All right, let's take a look at the next paper, please.
On Nigerian Tribune, inflation rate jumps to 27.33% as food cost rises by 31.52%. At editors' conference, Tinubu restates commitment to economic recovery. NGE president tasked editors on promoting citizens' access to information. Ex-finance minister Onaolapo Soleil dies at 90. Appeal court confirms Saul will lose re-election. You can find details on page 3. While 177 Nigerian passengers' visas were cancelled coming from the Saudi embassy. The big story on the paper after meeting with NSA. We have a caller.
Hello? Hello, good morning, Ale and Rachel. Shaman
Good
calling from
morning.
Kaduna. Honestly speaking, issue of corruption, that is a cankerworm in Nigeria. Even the unborn children know that corruption has sunk very deep into our bone marrows. What we are experiencing in this country is a total insult to all humanity. I cannot imagine somebody embezzling government to a tune of billions, and you go with this money. What are you going to do with this kind of money? People are suffering. Hardship is tearing everybody on the faces. Hardship is knocking on our doorpost. And somebody out there will embezzle this government in the name of corruption because you want to make riches. If you make such riches, where will it take such riches to? The only thing you can enjoy is to sleep on one bed. The only thing you can do is to drive on one car. And the only thing you can do is to eat on one plate of food a day. But you make people suffer the dearest of their life because of their ill behavior. Let us know, as I always say, we stand before God to account for our worship here on earth. There's nobody that thinks that he is fast or tricky or that is intelligent in doing what he's doing best to injure the life of many that will not stand before God to account for whatever he does here on earth. We are praying for a purposeful leadership in this country. My sisters in the studio, enough of our suffering in this country because nobody is happy with Nigeria. The Nigerian leaders have taken us for granted because we are too quiet, because we are too gentle, and that's why they are taken for granted. But I pray that with certainty, we're going to get somebody that will get us out of this rift because enough of our bondage. We are in bondage in Nigeria. Our leaders, we thought democracy was going to ease our suffering. The military era was better than what we are experiencing today because of the corruption we are passing through. We pray that Tinubu, in his own character and manner, that God will use him mightily to rescue Nigeria. Somebody said Tinubu is a messiah to Nigeria. I do not succumb to that. Tinubu could be a rescuer of Nigerian problem, but he cannot be a messiah. My messiah is Jesus Christ. I do not see a human being as my messiah. May God help us and let us do the needful all the time so Nigeria move forward because we have been too stagnant. Good morning, my sisters.
Good
morning.
morning. I
Thank
guess
you
that
very
was
much.
Shamal from Kaduna.
Yes.
Could actually recognize his voice. And if you remember, Richard, I said it's sad where we wish for those old back days. You can hear Shamal saying that. I mean, things are better back during the military time than now that we're actually practicing the civilian way of things, and then yet things are getting from bad to worse every day. And the issue of corruption running in our veins is left for us because the leaders we have are the leaders we allow to use us. Believe you me, Richard, the leaders we're having presently, if you feel that the leaders are not okay, who is to blame for the leadership we're having in Nigeria presently? Everybody.
Everyone, yeah.
So eventually, somehow, we have a role to play in what is going on. But just like he said, the hope we have is when we put the work on, we're hoping we have leaders that will be willing. Because believe you me, to be able to fight corruption, you have to be very dogged, be willing to
Yes,
forget
to
about
fight it,
anybody and then say that I will work this out. And we hope that the president will have all the support that he needs,
We
because
hope
no matter how much he's willing, if he doesn't have cabinet members that are willing to go all the way with him, his work will be useless. So we hope that the cabinet members, the ministers, the senators, House of Rep know why they are there in the first place and that they are ready to do the work,
I mean,
Rachel.
Sele, and if you think of it also, he put them there. Why would you put people that won't support you to do the work? You were, you have the dispensation to literally pick out.
All right, let's
We
take this
have a
call. Hello,
call.
good morning.
If the election is the result go to the polling unit before the commencement of the
Election.
accreditation.
Hello. I think I lost that call. Okay, he's
So
still
we
on.
just want to tell the people outside the state now.
Go ahead, please. Hello. Okay, control room, maybe you can end our call. I just hope you could hear. He was talking about the election. I hope you'll be
Yes.
able to complete whatever he was saying. You were actually making a point.
Yes,
Richard.
Sele, I keep saying it that when people make statement and say a governor or a president didn't give support, what do they mean by that? The support you got was being voted into that position. That is what the masses can do. They've given you that support because they have faith in you and they have put you in that position to do them right, to bring in policies, to drive the economy, to rule the country in the way that will favor all. Now you have the dispensation of putting your cabinet, your ministers, your service chiefs and all of that. It was all at your own will. You sat down and you look at the people that can help you, then you have no excuse whatsoever to fail. But we keep seeing leaders failing, and then we wonder how did we get it wrong? We begin to feel guilty. Nigerians begin to feel guilty as if they voted for the wrong person, or as if we don't know what we are doing. But years after years, you find out, what else could you have done as a common man, Sele? What else could you have done? What else could I have done than to vote the person that I thought rather presented himself as a capable person for the job, and when the person who got to that position did the opposite, because they will give us manifesto, they will give us agendas, and we are waiting for them to fulfill these agendas, and they don't at the end of the day. But I keep saying that democracy is flexible, and there are certain things that we are not supposed to sit down and allow it. We have the senators, for example, that are supposed to call an administration when they are not delivering, but everybody sits down and is only concerned about their stomach. We have the liberty that after 4 years, we don't bring back this person into power, but then our electoral commission will fail us on the other hand. And then you find out we are trapped in a lot of ways. And we will keep hoping, Sele, and praying that we wake up one day and we're out of this dilemma, because it feels like we run this place is blocked, we run this way is blocked, and then Nigerians just keep going round a vicious cycle that feels like hope is coming, it feels like it's not coming, and all of that. But we can start getting it right the day we finally have an administrator in position that will be able to restructure Nigeria deliberately, selflessly restructure Nigeria to the way that it will be very patriotic, and it will be clear out there that this person is selfless and wants what's best for Nigeria. Until we have a leader like that in every, be it at the federal government level, at the state government, in our House of Representatives, and in our Senate. And I just hope that such leaders are being grown somewhere, somehow. And we can only help but wish that, but we can get there, and then hopefully we will truly have selfless leaders that will change Nigeria for the better.
I think this whole thing will start from the bottom. You remember when we had delegates, they were the ones who had the choice to actually go and make the decisions on behalf of the whole Nigerians.
Exactly.
And I think that was where this whole thing got mixed up, because of course not every Nigeria got to decide at the primaries who will actually be.
Yeah.
So Nigerians were left with the people
What
who
delegates
won
give them.
what
Yeah.
the delegates give them.
Sure.
And I believe that the delegates henceforth have to know that you owe Nigerians a
You
lot.
do.
Let us have an election, or let us have leaders that is not based on whether you're from the same family, the same religion. It should be about somebody that have the character.
True.
Somebody who can actually lead Nigeria to the better place, regardless of whether you are a Christian, you're a Muslim, you're from the north, you're from the south, west, east, however it is. So, but we are just hoping, Richard.
We
I
are
will not
hoping.
lose hope. We will not
We
lose
will
hope.
not
There's
sell
still
it.
hope eventually, and we hope that we'll get there someday.
Yes. Still on Nigerian Tribune, the big story after meeting with NSA, we have labor suspend strike, federal government regrets attack on NLC president, says investigation in progress, arrest made. OAU lecturer slums dies in his office. $6 billion partnership with African city aid to transform trade across Africa. This is coming from UBA. You can find details on page 7. 2 killed, 1,000 houses burned as fire engulfs IDP camp in Borno State. More details can be found on page 5. Minority leader PDP senators settle for North Central. You can find details on page 29. One party state PDP APC Bika. You can find details on page 29. New Rivers Commissioner of Police orders arrest of notorious cultists, 2 Baba and other criminals. You can find details on page 25, and that's all the news on Nigerian Tribune.
All right, let's take a look at what the Guardian has for us, where we're having currency depreciation, high energy costs, worsen inflation outlook. Here we're seeing that inflation surges hit multi-decade high of 27.3% as the monthly growth retreats. Here you can see the headline of inflation, the food inflation, which we see is about 31.52%, and then the average exchange rate, which is at 1,019 naira per dollar. So quite a number of things that you can actually look into. All right, I think we have a call. Hello, good morning. Hello?
We're not hearing this caller.
All right, maybe the control room can end the call. We hope that the caller calls us back again. We can barely hear you. Thank you so much. Still on the Guardian newspaper, we have reps demand implementation of 550 billion naira subsidy removal palliative, with detail of the story found inside the paper. Tackling crashes by trucks, articulated vehicles in Lagos and Ogun State, with detail of the story in the paper. NLC TUC suspends strike, asks the federal government to reciprocate gesture. NLC TUC suspends strike, asks federal government to reciprocate the gesture. You can find detail on page 6. Saudi side wrong visas, faulty application for deportation. So these are part of the reasons why the 177 Nigerians were being deported back to the country. NNPCL flags currency crisis as barrier to investment. Strengthen EFCC chair to sustain anti-corruption campaign. Strengthen the EFCC chair to sustain anti-corruption campaign. This is an editorial you can find on page 12 of the Guardian newspaper, and that's all on the Guardian newspaper.
On Blueprint newspaper, the big story: after Ribadu-led truce, Labour suspends nationwide strike. Senate summons emergency meeting, backs Ajero on Imo campaign. Umba announces 25,000 naira cash awards to Enugu workers. You can find details on page 6 and that of the big story on page 16. APC to Atiku concentrate on repairing Kamatose, PDP leave us alone. You can find more details on page 5. World Bank disbursed $299.99 million to Nigeria for palliatives, and I hope Nigeria gets to see these palliatives from the World Bank. You can find details on page 23. Deported Nigerians didn't fulfill entry conditions, says Saudi government. Appeal court upholds Sanwo-Olu's victory, reserves judgment in Nasarawa State. Tinubu to editors, our discussions promoting economic growth and stability. NL cautions on negative reportage. Amuka warns against breaking nation's fabrics with breaking news. Customs not private to $3.2 billion modernization project details coming from the CG, the Controller General. You can find details on page 8. UBA's $6 billion partnership with African CTA to boost Africa's trade. More details can be found on page 22. And the last story, Nigeria's inflation rate rises to 27.33% on rising food prices. More details can be found on page 23. And that's all the news on Blueprint newspaper.
On this day newspaper, stakeholders re-echo call for sale of NNPC's oil and gas asset to fund big upstream projects, advocate activation of the IJV modern provision in the PIA, and then seeks $15 billion of Nigerian pension fund to help in the long-term projects. And then coming from the NUPRC, we did not award marginary oil fields to unqualified companies, detailed on page 14. Provitus moves to acquire majority stake in Unity Bank. You can find detail on page 6. Coming from the NGE confirm, Tinubu advocates positive narrative to boost Nigerians' investment, with the writer says false narrative, misinformation threatening the country's fabric. Governor Eno charges editors to engender good governance in their reportage. You can find detail on page 14. After meeting federal government, NLC TUC suspend nationwide strike, with the writer here saying directs workers across Nigeria to return to duty posts today. And then coming from the NSA, Ajaro's attackers already in custody. How National Assembly and others' intervention yield positive results. You can find detail inside the paper. We have a picture story here that says presentation of an honorary federal award to Gandoji. You can see him over there. The last story on the paper, we have impact of fuel subsidy removal. Higher food prices push inflation to 27.77%. With detail of that story found on page 5. And that is all on the paper.
On the Daily Times newspaper, the big story cabal emerges in Tinubu presidency, opposition claims. The writer saying PDP says this particular version out to selfishly emasculate INEC and the judiciary. Reveals bid towards totalitarianism, one-party system. Says Nigeria's unity in danger, crisis looming. It's a lie, we are strengthening democracy, APC fires back. NLC TUC suspends strike. You can start with the details on the front page and continue on page 24. Edo Fertilizer Company produces 80,000 tons of NPK and generates 15 billion naira. Sultan Emir of Kano headline VIPs at mosque opening in Ibadan today. You can find details on page 5. Reps will partner Tinubu to develop Nigeria. To develop Nigeria. This is a statement coming from the Speaker of the House of Representatives. You can find the details on page 9. And we have a sad story at the downside. Housewife touches husband's residence over divorce letter. You can find details on page 21. And we have a picture story where we see NEMA distributes relief materials to victims of a collapsed mosque incident in Kaduna State. And that's all the news on the Daily Times newspaper.
Well, thank you so much, Rachel, for doing the program with me.
You're welcome, Selen.
Thank you to all our viewers who call in. Thank you to our callers. Thank you to our viewers for keeping the day with us. Thank you to all our crew members who always, give us the best and make sure we are prompt on air. Thank you to also the producer. Thank you, General Manager, Echo Executive, and every other person that have been a lover of Echo Television and supporting us. Until we come again tomorrow, do have a blessed day ahead.